Welcome back to another GR8 podcast episode. I really appreciate you guys clicking on my GR8 podcast on Spotify, on YouTube. I really appreciate it. Go subscribe to my YouTube channel, Nate the Great, and go subscribe to my Patreon. It's only $1 a month. That's like the lowest form, the lowest currency, the lowest amount of dollars that I could put it at. So please go subscribe to that and go support me. I really appreciate you guys. Those are some more house cleaning items I just want to get out of the way at the top of the show. I really appreciate you guys. And I'm very thankful for you, listening and watching and having fun with me talking about. Today we're going to talk about Barbenheimer, but I really appreciate you guys allowing me to talk about movies, comics, TV shows, life, sports. Doesn't matter. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. So today we are talking about Barbenheimer 2023, and it's the culmination of Barbie and Oppenheimer, two completely and so drastically different movies releasing on the same day. And I know we're already in August and I'm kind of late to this, but I've had so many technical difficulties trying to record this episode, but it's okay. We're here now. We're going to record it. We're going to talk about Barbenheimer. So to start talking about it, honestly, we need to put you on a timeline, okay? The timeline of the human race, go all the way back to 2008, okay? 2008, the third weekend in July in 2008, The Dark Knight comes out, directed by Christopher Nolan, released and distributed by Warner Brothers, okay? Same day, same exact day, the third weekend in July in 2008, Mamma Mia also is released by Universal. Universal puts some skin in the game and releases their, fun, romantic, not really a rom-com, but more of just fun, energetic, loud, poppy, bright, fun, girly movie alongside The Dark Knight, which is dark, brooding, not very fun, but very good. Such a good movie with a lot of good. It's a Oscar-worthy performances by a lot of the cast. So that's our very first Barbenheimer. That is our very first one ever to be recorded. Our very first Barbenheimer, The Dark Knight, released and distributed, directed by Christopher Nolan, and released and distributed by Warner Brothers. And then we also have, on the other hand, Mamma Mia, released and distributed by Universal. Very, very interesting stuff, okay? So now I'm going to take you from 2008 all the way to 2020, okay? Hopefully you're still on the ride with us, okay? So 2020, I'm going to ask you a question. What happened in 2020? Fill in the blank. I'll give you a couple seconds. Yep. All right. Yeah. A couple seconds. You are correct if you said that the end of the movie industry, that is correct. That is what happened in 2020, the beginning of the end of the movie industry. Who cares about people losing their livelihood, their jobs, their lives in general, siblings, loved ones, friends, family, everything. People died, but honestly, when you really put in comparison that Christopher Nolan couldn't release his Tenet movie in the third weekend in July out in theaters because Warner Brothers didn't let him, then I don't know what you're doing. Of course, that's the biggest news story that came out of 2020. No, but seriously, Christopher Nolan, another great movie, Tenet, coming out in third weekend in July. That's where he wanted to release his movie, his new movie, Tenet. This is 2020. And obviously, the whole pandemic happens. The whole craziness of the world happens. The whole craziness of Hollywood happens. And they have to release this movie a little bit later on down the road. And now what HBO Max is doing, and owned by Warner Brothers, their streaming service, what they put a lot of their content on, they said, hey, whatever movies that we release, we are going to put also on HBO Max. We're going to release it in theaters, but also put it on HBO Max the same day. So people that want to go see it in theaters can go see it in theaters, pay for a movie ticket, go have the theater experience if they really want to later on in 2020, or they can just sit at home, stay at home, and watch it in their family room or whatever. And that sort of worked for a couple movies, but it definitely did not work for Christopher Nolan in his film Tenet. He said, absolutely not. I'm not going to allow that to happen. Warner Brothers said, no, we are going to allow that to happen because that's what we're going to do. That's our game plan for the COVID-19, for the pandemic. So They released Tenet not on the third weekend of July, because that's the favorite weekend by Christopher Nolan. A lot of his movies have been released in the third weekend of July of the different years of the different years that his films have been released. They take it and I can't remember the specific date that they put it on, that they release in theaters, Tenet. But they release it in theaters, and then either the day or the week or the month of, they release it also on HBO Max for viewers to go watch Tenet on HBO Max at home. Christopher Nolan's like, I did not film my movie to be watched at home right now, especially right now, since this is when I'm releasing it. I do not want my movie to be released on HBO Max. Warner Brothers said, shut up. We are going to do that. That's our game plan. Christopher Nolan says, all right, I guess I'm leaving Warner Brothers. Now, Warner Brothers and Christopher Nolan have had such a good relationship the last several movies. I think like most of his filmography is released and distributed by Warner Brothers. He leaves from Warner Brothers and he says, I'm taking my next movie somewhere else. Universal steps up. Universal steps up and says, Christopher Nolan, are basically a rival, world-renowned movie director, Oscar-worthy performances. Yeah, come over here. We'll make your next movie. We'll give you the biggest budget ever. It's like, well, okay, well, I only need $100 million. They looked around. They looked at Disney with their $300 million budgets for their pirate movies. They said, sure. Yeah, of course. Make us all the money possible. Christopher Nolan strolls right up to Universal Backlot Studios and starts making Oppenheimer. Now we've come to 2023, full swing, third weekend in July. First teaser of Oppenheimer says third weekend. I can't remember what the actual date is, but third weekend in July, we're releasing Oppenheimer. Fantastic new Christopher Nolan movie. 3 years later, we're going to watch Robert J. Oppenheimer destroy the world. Amazing. But you know who also comes from flying in from the back? Warner Brothers with their big summer blockbuster, Barbie. They said, Christopher Nolan, if you're releasing on the third weekend in July with our competitor Universal, we're releasing our big summer blockbuster movie, Barbie, on the third weekend in July. So Universal is such a petty and such a terribly run company that they actually made this happen, that both of these movies are being released or were released on the same day, the same weekend. And all the internet just thought it was a coincidence. Everybody was like, oh, it's just two drastically different movies being released. Oh, it's okay, like whatever. No, like this is a real legitimate thing that these corporate companies have made up. That they made this happen. And it's funny that the internet absolutely took hold of this whole swing of Barbenheimer. Go watch Barbie, go watch Oppenheimer, and like the Oppenheimer's for the guys and Barbie's for the girls, but people are still going watching a Barbie because they want to see what the whole Barbenheimer deal is about, and all these other people that wouldn't necessarily want to go watch 3-hour long biopics about a scientist and men talking in a room. Sure, I'll go see that movie too because this whole thing is intriguing me. That's what happened. Barbie has now, I think, we're August 2nd now, and has surpassed $800 million at the worldwide box office. I'm not too sure how Oppenheimer has done, but considering its budget, it's also done very, very well for Christopher Nolan movies for a 3-hour long biopic. It's funny that Barbie can also be played in 1.5 times more theaters, like around the country, and in a one specific theater. Like any given theater, it can be played 1.5 more times because it's 2-hour runtime as opposed to Oppenheimer's 3-hour runtime. So very interesting sort of thing. So it was already made to make more money. And the great marketing of Barbie, the fantastic cast of Barbie, the more marketability, the more availability for Barbie. I would probably say more people are trying to go see Barbie than they are trying to go see Oppenheimer. I really enjoyed both movies, and that's where I want to kind of transition into my movie reviews about these two movies. I just want to make the precedent straight. I just want to let you guys know, hey, there's actually way more going on, and I think that's so much more fun than just a normal movie review. Hopefully I can put a video out or something along those lines that just covers the entire story of the saga of Barbenheimer, how it's actually no goofy coincidence. It's actually like a planned out sort of thing from Universal, from Warner Brothers, mostly Warner Brothers because they're a petty company. But I just want to set the record straight that's saying, hey, did you know this? Maybe not. This is what's going on. It's a whole lot of fun to just be covering fun movie news stories because it's just about corporate greediness and movies being released and how much money things are making. It's just a whole lot of fun. So I guess now I want to talk about Oppenheimer. I'll go from Oppenheimer to Barbie and talk about like what I liked about these two different movies. So what I really, really liked about Oppenheimer, it's how so introspective. I think it's Christopher Nolan's probably the most introspective and personal movie. Cillian Murphy's in pretty much every single scene, and he steals every single scene that he's in. It's funny that he's the main character, but yet he steals so many scenes because he's alongside great actors and actresses like Matt Damon, Emily Blunt, and Florence Pugh, Josh Josh Peck, and so many other great actors, and such a great setting and timeline before World War II, during World War II, and then after World War II. It was great. One thing I want to pick out of the movie that I just enjoyed so much is, first of all, its introspection, which I do want to like highlight, but I also this is kind of going off the introspection and how Cillian Murphy portrayed this character of Oppenheimer and his like constant struggle in his head, what's going on with his ideas about this nuclear bomb, building it. The movie starts out right. There's a shot of Cillian Murphy looking down, and we see what he's looking down at. It's a little puddle. It's a little puddle. It's raining a little where he's at. He's outside of a college. Rain is dripping into the puddle, and he's seeing like the splashes. The raindrop would hit the water, and you'd see like the impact, circumference, like the little circle that comes about from it. And he's just looking at it. And then like the scene cuts, keeps going. The rest of the movie keeps going. We learn about the nuclear bombs and whatnot. We see the Trinity test. We don't really see the bombs being dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but we hear it, and we try to understand what Cillian Murphy, what Robert J. Oppenheimer is feeling in these moments. And at the very end of the movie, he's talking to Albert Einstein. Which is kind of so funny that Albert Einstein like lived during World War II, but Robert J. Oppenheimer goes up to Albert Einstein. He talks about him. He talks to him. He talks about nuclear warfare. He's talking about chain reactions, and he's actually very distraught. He says like I think we set off a chain reaction that might end the world. Albert Einstein walks off. Oppenheimer, this is the last shot of the movie. He's looking down at this big lake, this massive lake that they're standing by, and he's watching raindrops. It's raining again. Raindrops hit the lake. And now you see what's going on in his head. They look like bombs hitting the earth, being launched from different countries onto other countries. Seeing these bombs, seeing these impact circumferences, seeing these mushroom clouds. This is what he believes is the future. Nuclear holocaust, watching these bombs being hit, and he cannot grasp the idea that he might be the one that have caused it. I love the movie. I love the scene where he's in the little gym, and with a bunch of like Americans, cheering him on, like being so proud of him creating this weapon of mass destruction and him not being able to cope with it. I love the movie. I think its editing is a little bit choppy. It's a little bit fast. I didn't have audio interference with Tenet. There was a whole lot of audio interference, so it was kind of hard. Like his mixing for his audio, it sounds kind of rough, at least in Tenet. But in this movie, I didn't get a whole lot of that. Christopher Nolan. So overall, I think on Letterboxd, I gave the movie like a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I think I want to stick with that. I really, really enjoyed the movie. I really want to watch it again. I just want to sit down and absorb that world. I want to absorb that timeline. I want to absorb Oppenheimer's head again. I loved it so much. Robert Downey Jr. is great in the movie as well. Everything around like the production, the set designs, the editing, the editing, but I understand why they made it like that. The acting, all fantastic movie. So now I also want to talk about Barbie, which is the complete opposite of, bombs being dropped. But it's actually a whole lot closer to Oppenheimer than we actually previously thought. And I'll talk more about that in a second. So Barbie, directed by Greta Gerwig, starring Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. It's about Barbie and her going through this weirdly existential crisis and her having to go to the real world and understand what it means to be human, and how Mattel and Barbie, as an extension, has created this bond between mother and daughter, and then also what it means to be a woman and the patriarchy and different modern things. And I'm trying to tell you all of this, the things that I really enjoyed about the movie, but it's so hard because, like, I really enjoyed Barbie sitting down at this park bench, watching humans just interact, seeing like these best friends laugh with each other, seeing this son and father cry or whatever. Her not being an actual real person, watching all these things happen, not trying, like, can't understand it. Why are these things happening? I've never felt these emotions before, and seeing what the beauty is about being human. I love that aspect. I love a toy trying to understand that. I think that's great. Such a deviation from Toy Story, where Disney just, talking about growing up and childhood. And that's kind of what they wanted to dip into as well, with this mother and daughter aspect of how it kind of works is in Barbie Land. You get played around with, you do different things. You go, like, she goes to the beach and whatnot, but it's all based on like who is actually playing with her. It's all in like kind of the imagination. So so Barbie's like dancing, and this is towards the beginning of the movie. She's dancing, and then all of a sudden she's just like, what happens when I die? And it's like everybody like stops. It's like, what'd you just say? And she was like, nothing. And I think that's really funny because the person that's playing with her is actually feeling like that. So she goes to the dream world. Oh, the dream. I keep on wanting to say the dream world, the real world. Goes to the real world, and it's like, I want to figure out who is playing with me. So she thinks it's like this daughter. She gets a picture of this daughter. She goes to the daughter. It's like, I'm here now. I'm here to, bring you happiness. I'm Barbie. And the daughter's like, what? I haven't played with you in years. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. She after a series of events, she finds out that the daughter's mother actually picked up Barbie once again and started playing with her again, trying to reconnect with the times that she had with her daughter growing up, and realizing, hey, maybe Barbie's just not for her anymore. But reflecting back on those times where just loving on her daughter, spending time with her, and playing with Barbies together. I think something like that with that whole idea of a daughter-mother dynamic, trying to bond, trying to go closer over toys, and this mother not really not really understanding how to cope with her daughter growing up, and her daughter growing out of Barbies and out of toys and wanting to have a phone and friends and different things. She just wants her small little child daughter back, but understanding that growing up is part of life. I think part of that is amazing as well. I love that sort of aspect. But what they also try to say, and this is the third thing, the third theme that they try to say, is like patriarchy and women and doing well in the world, and different aspects of how the world and society looks at women and different things. They touch on it a whole lot. They say the word patriarchy like about 1,000 times in the movie, and at the third time in, I'm like, okay, this is either like trying to preach to me, or they're just trying to make a joke out of it. And then by the end, it was like, okay, you just try to make a joke out of it. So now I really don't understand if you actually have a problem with the quote unquote patriarchy or not. Like, I don't really understand. And again, I don't want to, go through scene by scene, but it's just a whole lot of the movie is trying to not necessarily preach to me, but trying to say something that only sort of applies to women and girls and mothers and daughters. It's different things like that. Me being a 23-year-old guy, understanding that kind of idea that, like, especially with the long monologue at the end, trying to understand, okay, is this for me? Is it when is this for me, and when is it no longer for me? And sort of that kind of idea, like, am I the target audience for this movie anymore? I was really, really on board with the first theme that I really was trying to grasp onto. And then I was like, okay, now we're talking about, growing up and realizing that things are different now. But now with this third theme that you're trying to go on for is like the patriarchy and things that like I have no control over, like women and how they feel throughout their environments. Like I don't know. It's stuff like that where when you have three different themes and you try to say so much in a Barbie movie, yet you just turn out saying nothing at all. They try to say so much, especially at the very, very end when Barbie is talking to the creator of Barbie. And she was like, I created Barbie for my daughter so that she had something to play with that's not just baby dolls. It's a real woman that she can dress up and pretend that it's her. I really like that. But when you try to say so much else in your movie and then eventually coming to a point where I have no idea what you're actually legitimately trying to say to me, I lost the point of the themes. I loved all the themes individually, and the last one with being a woman or whatever. Maybe that's just not for me. Maybe that's just something that I don't understand. That's fine. That's great. I kind of feel alienated now because I was so on board with your other themes that I thought you were trying to come across. But now with your third one, and obviously this actually didn't happen like the first part of the movie. They try to say one thing, in the middle of the part of the movie they try to say another. It was more just like constant going in what they're saying with their plot lines and dialogue. What I was trying to learn as the audience member, what are you trying to say to me? And I think the themes and the thought processes and what they're trying to actually say to me got kind of convoluted with trying to say too much. However, that's my biggest point of the movie. But however, my thoughts about the movie, the casting, the acting, the fun musical dance numbers, the songs, all so amazing. The colors, the bright colors, the cinematography is great too. I just want to talk about the production design. Every single last part of Barbie Land looked absolutely amazing. What looked fake because it's toys, but looked real because it's toys. It's imagination. It's great. The production design, the colors, the brightness, the poppiness, the editing, the coloring of the movie just looked great. I loved just sitting back and allowing my brain to turn off and just absorb Barbie for 2 hours was great. But I loved it how I had to turn it back on because, oh, wait, Barbie's actually trying to say something to me. Oh, Barbie's actually saying something to the general audience that is just dressing up in pink and cowboy hats. What are you saying to us? And I just loved that I had to perk up a little for a Barbie movie. But however, what the movie was actually trying to say to me got kind of lost in translation. That's what I'd probably say. So Barbie, probably a 4 out of 5, probably 3.5 out of 5. Probably. I love Margot Robbie. I love Ryan Gosling. I love the music. I love the songs. I love the set designs. I love the production design. I love the editing. I love the everything just was fun about the movie. You could just tell the cast had such a blast making the movie. I love Greta Gerwig, and I think I don't know if this is her best movie, but this is her most entertaining, slap on the TV during a party kind of movie. I loved it. I loved it by still saying it was a 4 out of 5 stars, 3.5 out of 5 stars or whatever. I can still say I loved it, but there are some tweaks I would make if I was writing the script. Well, thank you guys so much for listening, watching, having fun with me. I finally got through the episode with no technical difficulties. We still don't know because I still have to go into the editing booth, but I really appreciate you guys having fun with me talking about Barbenheimer, talking about the background of Oppenheimer and all the corporate greediness, and actually talking about and reviewing the different movies and what I got out of them. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next podcast episode, YouTube video, Patreon video. It doesn't matter. I'm doing it. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.